stew, and her name is Minerva. Ouch! She's the flower of the coward. Ouch!
Welcome to the show.
Don't start! We haven't left yet!
Yo, everybody. Why am I tiny? Why am I tiny? Now I'm big. There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Cryptids Comics. It's comics, cryptids, and cannonballs. Something like that. Welcome, everybody. It is a Sunday afternoon. It's 3 o'clock. We're back in our regular time slot. It is 90 degrees here in the not sunshine state of Oregon. So it's getting a little warm upstairs, but so far so good. We're actually expecting about 2 weeks worth of nice summery weather, which is very unusual for this neck of the woods, or at least this time of year. Usually it's you get in about late July and into August. It's pretty roasting here. I mean, not like Phoenix hot, but 90s, sometimes into 100 in August. So we're getting a little early start with some nice weather in June, which I am not going to complain about. And no, I don't believe it's global warming. I think it's just the weather. So anyway, what a humongous show. I've got a list over here, just stuff to go over today, because I did last night go and watch Masters of the Universe. Went to the theater. Haven't done that. I don't think I've been to a theater to see a movie. I mean, like a major theater. I do my local neighborhood theater, which is a small, like 1950s movie house. But like going to like a Regal or, one of those theaters, I haven't done in a long time. But my good friend David Williams was telling me this Masters of the Universe movie is good. Now, I don't always trust David because he's a Zack Snyder fan, so I question that. But, I thought, okay, well, he gave it a pretty good review. I thought it made sense to me. And then my son goes to see it Friday night and comes back and goes, I have the power, and he's not a little kid. He's an adult. And said he really enjoyed it. So I thought, all right, if I got a good friend and my own son telling me I should go see this movie, I went and watched it last night, and I am here to review it for your knowledge, entertainment purposes, whatever. So we'll see what I have to say here very shortly. But we do have some other things we need to do before that, which is, well, let's see who's here. Why don't we do that? I don't see anybody else do shows where they actually go in and say, hey, who's in the chat? Let's check and see. I do that. I do that for you. Let's see. Her Creative Faye is here. She says, so I gave into peer pressure. I guess the peer pressure of going to see the movie. It's not peer pressure. It was like enough people were saying, this is kind of fun. You should check it out. I was like, all right, I will. Because I'm not a Masters of the Universe fan. I did not grow up on that stuff. I was in high school when I think, I don't know what year it came out, but I was I had to have been in high school when that stuff came out. And so it was like, I wasn't watching the Saturday morning cartoons. I wasn't a little kid, so I wasn't watching those. and I had nothing, no knowledge of it really. I still don't, other than what I got gleaned from the movie. I mean, I know who the characters are in the sense of you show me a picture of them, I can go, oh, that's He-Man or that's Skeletor, but no, that's She-Ra, I think. But that's about all I know. So I didn't go in with any expectations, and I certainly didn't go to see it because of peer pressure. But anyway, like I said, we'll get into that shortly. Baltan Gene. I haven't seen the Baltan Saijin. Says, hopefully you didn't hate it too much. I saw it yesterday and had a great time. So he went and saw it yesterday as well. Let's see here. Leg Kick is here because Leg Kick is always here. Pantheon, greetings and salutations. Pantheon 7900, is that actually part of your name, or is that one of those numbers attached to you by YouTube? I don't know. There's Pity Ma. She goes, I'm sure I'll be late, but I'm early to send love. That's very sweet. Randy Howell's here. He's all the way from Canada, of course. Matthew Muma is joining us. Spaceman 8-10 at 10-8 Comics. Jim says, my back windshield just exploded as I was driving down the interstate. I will catch the replay. Hope all is a-okay in y'all's world. I hope everything's okay in your world. Wow. Your back window exploded. Are you sure someone didn't open fire on you or something? You're in an action movie. Wow, that's crazy. Here's Spaceman going, Aaron. Now, see, I'm going to get irritated really quick out of the gate here, I think, but we'll wait just to see. Spamthropocosaurus. Is here. Stealth X5 says late. Okay. All right. So the Spaceman here, the insinuation is that I'm late. Here he's like, Aaron, where's Aaron? And then Stealth comes in and just basically says it. Says, Aaron, you're late. And so this is for both of you guys. What your obsessiveness with me being late when I start the show 3:02 and always late, for crying out loud. I actually was trying to find a shirt and I found my cultural appropriation Bigfoot shirt. So that was a gift, by the way. All right, who else is here? Matthew Muma's got it all figured out. He says, Aaron is never late, chat, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. I think that is absolutely correct. I love that. Steel Rage is here. David Williams, of course, saying, you need the little blue pill. It's why you were tiny. Oh, my Lord. David Williams gets one right out of the gate. Are you kidding me? Wow. Murdoch is here. Coram said, I had fun watching it. So a lot of people very positive about Masters of the Universe. What will I say? JP Roca says, what's good? Michelle Bowers is here. She's very dangerous. Got to watch her. She has a sword. It is not afraid to use it. Yeah, let's see who else we got. Eric M. Boyd is here. Craig 69 says he's not here, but we know for a fact that he actually is here. Darren Wagner for $2 reporting for duty. Aaron, thank you. And of course, we always like to give Darren a shout out on Fund My Comic, Demi Foot, and with some artwork contributions by our own Dan Lawless. So you want to check that over there on Fund My Comic. Check that out over on Fund My Comic. Snaz Head is here. Says, I was born after Masters of the Universe. Don't care to see it. Gray Wolf Graphics is joining us. Yeah, they're saying the Masters of the Universe, Darren Wagner says, debuted in 1982, which is, of course, when I was in high school, my senior year. So, yeah, I did not get into it at all. Eric P877 says, longtime Masters of the Universe fan, and I loved it. It was not without its flaws, but overall it's a great film. Well, we will see what I think here pretty quickly. Murdoch 94 singing praises of the film as well. Angela Curry is here. We call her Angela Chocolates Curry because she always delivers the chocolates when she's in town. Angela, are you going to be in town for SummerCon? Because if you are, I'll be expecting a box of chocolates. Randy Howell, Canadian $5. Thank you, Randy. Says, Google tells me that Masters of the Universe premiered on September 8th, 1983. You were likely out of high school at that point, unless you were left back a lot. 83 would have been well, I graduated in 82, so 83 would have been the end of my freshman year in college, which I did get kicked out of. So, and let's see here. Creative Face says, Aaron, Shelly likes gummy bears, right? She does, but if you're talking about like providing me with candy at SummerCon, Shelly will never see it because it won't make it home. Because I will be flying solo this year. Let's see here. Jimmy Owens is here. Hey, Jimmy. D Whams says, you like hitting people with your cannonballs. Gay. Okay. All right. Bean Pad said Aaron grew up with a Lone Ranger. I can't cannonball you for that because that's actually funny. How is this for non-committal? Angela Curry says, I'm going to mail you something. Maybe. So that's kind of raise the expectations, but then like cool off the expectations at the same time. Like, yeah, maybe I'll send you something. Maybe I won't. Okay. Let's get this rather unorganized show on the road. And we will start with something that hasn't been as regular on this show recently as it used to be, but
let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Now, the interesting thing is I had these last week, the fruity jellies, and I still have some left in here. That should show you guys that I don't just devour sugar relentlessly. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to eat, there's a strawberry one in there, a grape one, and then like a raspberry one. And the rest are yellow. Lemon, which is my least favorite. So I'm going to eat all the other colors and then give the lemon ones to my daughter. I think that's, nice of me. I love those. Oh, God, they're good. I like chewy candies. I don't like hard candy. I don't like hard candy at all. I mean, Tic Tacs, those are breath mints. So I don't know if they really count, but I want chewy candy, whether it's chocolatey and chewy or fruity and chewy. There you go. Randy Hall says, I prefer the lemon ones myself. I like lemon squares a lot. In fact, I love them. But lemon candy to me is, I don't know, it's not as exotic as what I'm looking for in a candy. All right. Alpha Channel says TMFI. Is that too much effing information? Is that what he's implying there? Okay. Okay. Where are we at? Usually we have a nice little snack and then we get right into the comic portion of our show. And today is going to be no exception. Yes, you crazy kids, it's time for the expensive comic of the week. And I wanted to thematically kind of, keep the show consistent. So today's expensive comic of the week is going to be why am I showing the back here? The first first comic book appearance of He-Man. Right there he is. And that was in DC Comics Presents number 47, which should have been in the 80s, of course. What is the specific date? 1982. So some people saying that the show debuted in 83, but the show would not, the comic book would not have come out before the cartoon show. So it had to be 82, which means I would have been a senior in high school. Oh, don't trust AI. AI is wrong so much. It's incredible. Anyway, here we go. So a 9.8 is pretty high grade, obviously. This one just sold earlier this month, like June 1st June 1st. There you go. For $1,400. Now, they were originally asking $2,000 for it, which is kind of ridiculous. So someone came in, made an offer of $1,400, and they of course accepted it. So that's a 9.8, right? So obviously a 9.8 of anything is going to be fairly expensive. So look at the caption up here. From Eternia with death. So anyway, you can say then that a 9.8 and the fair market value today, right now, would be exactly what this is telling us, is about $1,400, because that's the latest price paid for this book. But let's see what our friends over at Go Collect have to say about this. Of course, they're saying it is a key appearance, the first appearance of He-Man and Skeletor in comics. Now, there was a short comic included, I believe, with the first line of action figures that DC Comics produced. But in terms of actually being in mainstream comics, this would be considered the first appearance. Now, it has a kind of a mediocre Ross Andru cover, not a great cover. But anyway, let's take a look at this. So a 9.8, right? It's saying fair market's 1,200. Let's take a look at the things here now. So we have the 1,400. That's the one we just looked at on eBay sale. But prior to that, in May, it sold for $1,235. Prior to that, in May, it sold for $1,230. Prior to that, in May, it sold for $1,050. Prior to that, in May, it sold for $1,000. Prior to that, in April, we have a $1,300 sale. So really what we've got here is, for this 9.8, this first appearance, it's fluctuating anywhere between $1,000 and $1,400, which is, it's quite a bit of wiggle room there. But you see back in, you go to February, it sold for $1,500. Some of that, of course, probably was film speculation. And you're going to see the price probably drop on this book because of the lack of success of the film. Now, if they go ahead and make a sequel, regardless of how much money this one loses, and it's losing a ton, at least at the box office, maybe they can make that up through streaming and toy sales and all these other things they have roped into this. We shall see. But if they go ahead and make a sequel, then that would, of course, keep this in the collector's interest and might stabilize those prices. But as we see right here, there's 3,200 of these things graded, so they're not hard to find. You've got 199. I didn't even know that was a thing. 362 9.8s. That's a lot. 559 9.6s, 482 at 9.4. Oh yeah, 9.2s, 339. So you have about as many 9.2s as you have 9.8s. This is not a rare book in high grade, but considering the price on it, despite the fact of how plentiful it is, that leads us to believe that this is a somewhat popular book, that you can have prices that high and yet that many copies available. And any book you get really And I would argue even in the 70s, except for maybe giant-sized X-Men #1 or maybe X-Men 94, which is the first or the second appearance of the new X-Men, or something like the first appearance of Wolverine, which is really super expensive. That most of the time, books like this, you want to get them as high grade as possible because they're a dime a dozen in lower grades, and they're easy to find. So the only way you make it really collectible is getting it as high grade as possible. But anyway, so there you go. That's what you'd be paying for a 9.8. Now, if you go in and let's say you're looking for just an average old 9.2. See, now we're in that 350 range, 300 range. That's a fairly affordable book, that I don't know that I would go want to spend $1,000 in the first appearance of He-Man, but if I saw a 9.2 or maybe let's see what 9.4s are going for. Maybe a 9.4 is $400. Maybe I could get it for $350 at a show, on Sunday. Someone's desperate to sell it. I would do that. I don't know that I want to pay $1,000 for a 9.8 though, especially when there's again, there's 362 in 9.8. There's more in 9.4, obviously, but that's still a lot. So I don't know that I want to pay that much. If it had a better cover, I might be more interested in purchasing this book, but it doesn't. So I just, I kind of like Ross Andrew. I like him more as an interior artist than I do as a cover artist. I just think that's kind of a crappy cover, to be honest with you. No offense, Ross. If it was a really cool cover, I might be more interested in getting it. But anyway, there you go. That is our expensive comic of the week. And it's really not that expensive unless you get up in that 9.8 range. Gemini Dragon says, I would rather spend $1,000 on Aaron's artwork, and that is what I like to hear. Thank you for that. Anyway, here we go. Art of Roy doesn't like the movie. What a shocker. Does Art of Roy like anything? That's the question. All righty. So let's see here. What are we going to do now? Oh, I think it's important to remind you guys that I actually still have a campaign that is open. And it is called Barbaric Adventures. I know that most of you probably are completely aware of all this. You're like, oh, Aaron, don't push this on us again. But gosh darn it, I'm pushing it. This campaign right now, what are we at? We've got 541 backers, which, let's face it, it's not a lot. This is oh my gosh, this is really going to be a good book. And everybody's working on it. I've seen David's pages. I've seen Dan's pages. I've seen my pages. We are progressing on this thing. And I'm telling you, it freaking looks awesome. And basically, if you're unaware, this is a throwback to Savage Tales magazine of the 1970s and 80s, where you had black and white stories, larger format, 8.5 by 11 magazine size format. This will be a square bound volume though, 64 pages. Great new material in here. And with 4 painted cover options. This is my painted cover. This features my Primal Zone characters. That's the name of the story. It's more of an Edgar Rice Burroughs flavored interdimensional dinosaur and cavemen sort of story. David's story features a young knight, so you have kind of a medieval thing fighting demons, which is that's kind of fun. That's David's cover. Here is Dan Lawless's cover, where he goes to futuristic Mars that has fallen into chaos, and it's sort of this sci-fi barbaric adventure story. And the stuff I've seen that he's shown us looks really, really cool. So there's a wide variety of stuff that would fit into what we would consider a Savage Tales sort of motif here. And then finally, we've got a cover by Joe Jusko. He came in and did a guest cover for me. And this is featuring Freya the Ice Princess and Yeti Slayer. There's going to be a 5-page preview story by me in this magazine as well, or book, however you want to classify it. Like I said, it is square bound, 64 pages. So it's going to feel more like a old 80s Marvel style graphic novel than it will, like Kit Carter. It's going to be the exact same size as Kit Carter. So this is also has a preview story of this character in here, marking her first appearance, along with the first appearance of all these other IPs that are in this book. So it does have some collector's value and interest as well. Again, we've shown you some of the black and white here by me that's featuring the ink wash along with the black and white. So we're kind of going next level here with the art. It's not just straight up black and white. Here's some of Dan's. David won't let me preview any of his stuff yet. He's being very secretive, so we're not showing any of that. So yet, but I may be able to squeeze a page out of him once we launch the Kickstarter campaign. And of course, the Kickstarter campaign will feature this cover as the exclusive Kickstarter cover. It'll have the other covers as well available. This will be, you can only get this cover on Kickstarter. And I know I've been talking about this for a couple of weeks now, but because I've been working 2 jobs, essentially the Zorro Legacy book I was doing for Alien Books, which I've just wrapped up, and then working on Barbaric Adventures, I haven't been able to spend the time to put together the campaign. But now that I'm just working on Barbaric Adventures again, I'll get that up very, very soon. And of course, I'll keep you guys posted on that. All the details and stuff, I won't go over everything here, but because it's all spelled out in the campaign. If you haven't backed this and you think this sounds like something that might be of interest to you, check out the link in the description of this video. It'll take you right to the campaign. You can read all about it, make your decision, what you think. And then it's also linked to the top of this chat. It's also on my profile page on Instagram, as well as X, also known as Twitter to some folks. Shot glasses or some original artwork on here still. If you scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see here's all what we used to call perks are now rewards. You can order each cover individually if you like. You can order them a 4-pack, which is highlighted there on the right-hand column. You can get my cover with a sketchbook, my cover with a sketchbook, and the Freya print. You can get the big Barbaric box, which is the best value, where you get all 4 covers, the shot glass, the print, the sketchbook, and a 4-print color portfolio with an illustrated envelope, and a 5th cover that is right behind me. I'm working on right here. That is only available in the big Barbaric box. So there's some items in there that you can't get it anywhere else. So that's regularly a $210 value. You can get it for $185 if you're a bit of a big spender. If you're a really big spender, there's some original artwork still, not a lot, but there's some pieces. There's one, those pages. That my cover is still available. And I believe this one picture of Celia with promo art is also available on there. And you can also get back issues. Now, you can get back issues of Wraith of God, Kit Carter, Garbage Man, Power Cubed, all these things. You can get them on my website, aaronlopresti.com, or you can order them as part of this with this campaign. Either way, they are available to you. I am doing everything I can to make this stuff easy for you guys to pick up. So, but thank you guys for supporting the project. Obviously, when you're doing crowdfunding, you guys aren't involved, there's no project. So I thank you very much and appreciate you guys supporting it. And I guarantee you, you're not going to be disappointed with the final result of this book. It's really high quality. It's very, very nice. Now, Art of Roy defending himself, saying, I never said I didn't like it, Aaron. I said after a certain scene, I lost interest, meaning it was going good. Then they killed and believability the movie had, and it turned into a cartoon. Okay. All right. There you go. All right, folks. So that is our commercial advertisement for today. Then we will just move along from that. Let's see here. All right. I guess it's time for me to give you my thoughts on Masters of the Universe. Now, first of all, let me give you my thoughts on actually going to the movies in general. Holy crap. So expensive. It cost me, I took my daughter and her friend with me. So, whenever you like coerce someone to go into the movies with you, you're pretty much, on the hook for paying. And cost me $49. And that's without any candy or any of that crap. $49 for the three of us. So anyway, we went and saw He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. I think it's just Masters of the Universe, isn't it? All right, so here we go. Let me give it to you in a nutshell. David Williams gave this a 7 out of 10. My son really liked it. And he said probably 7 out of 10. Everybody said, well, there's people that hate it, right? And I think a lot of those are the people that grew up on the cartoon or more familiar with the cartoon and had expectations, and those expectations were not met. Now, let's remember going into this. I'll just come right out and tell you. I wrote a review on Letterboxd, which is an app site for movie reviews. And my I do short reviews, and my closing line was essentially, for a movie based on a cartoon, based on a line of toys, you couldn't do much better than this. And so you kind of go in with the handicap, knowing that this is not some IP or some property that was like really well developed and figured out and made sense on multiple levels. Dog going nuts again. It was a bunch of toys that they made a story up around after they already made the toys. So right there, I think you're sort of handicapped going in. So I didn't know the origin of He-Man. I didn't know any of this stuff. I don't even know if there actually is one outside of this movie. But they set this thing up. You knew who the kid was who grew up to be He-Man. So he was trapped on Earth for a while. Then he got transported back, and in a very sort of John Carter-ish kind of way, I guess. And in a lot of ways, you could make comparisons to John Carter, where this movie was directed by Phil Knight's son. Now, Phil Knight owns Nike, and Phil Knight's son, Travis Knight, I swear I'm going to kill that dog. Travis Knight owns Leica Studios, right? So that does all the Leica, I think it's Leica, pronounced Leica, stop motion stuff, right? Like Coraline and those other kind of, all the stuff he does is very weird. Coraline, excuse me. And so he directed this. So basically you're taking an animation director and giving him a live action film, very much which happened with John Carter. Now, I think John Carter is a superior film, although they're both box office bombs. So I guess you can, take from that whatever. But here's the thing with Masters of the Universe. I went in with no expectations, and they treated it as kind of a humorous, silly franchise, which it is, and pulled it off, I think, fairly successfully. I don't think the humor always hit. In fact, I'd say it's probably was 50-50. I thought there was some real groaners in there or some stuff that just didn't work. But then there was also some dialogue and some funny and some stuff in there that actually was really funny. Some people say, oh, this movie was woke. I found it to be anti-woke, or at least not, maybe not anti-woke, but making fun of wokeness. So you have your kid, Adam, here, grows up on Earth, escaping from Skeletor. He, goes to Earth and hides out on Earth. And he's working in this human HR department at some company. And they're all this, woke crap, and I thought it was funny. He had a he, him pronoun nameplate on his desk. And I just thought the he, him, he, man, I thought they were doing kind of a double entendre there that was kind of funny. And then when his boss comes in to lecture him, because he lost his sword and he's trying to find his sword because that's the only way he can get back home. And she's like in there lecturing him on looking for his sword on the internet when he's supposed to be working. And that whole thing just cracked me up because it was so right on the nose for, I guess, wokeism and how they try to run these workplaces and stuff. I just thought it was hilarious. I thought they were poking fun at the whole process. Now, I will say this, that people that are generally woke have such outrageous ideas on, such things as gender and all this kind of stuff that maybe this was meant to be an accurate take on how the workplace should be. But to those of us who don't agree with that philosophy, found it hilarious. And so I don't know if it was meant to be a parody of it or if it actually just was, because I thought it was funny and that's how I took it. So I didn't take this as woke at all. I thought the message of manhood, which was, fighting just for fighting's sake, is not what it's all about. It's about protecting your family and your loved ones, which I thought that was a nice message as well. And then you had, when Adam had his showdowns, or He-Man, if you will, had his showdowns with Skeletor and others, he tried to do his human relations thing where he would try to talk and say, hey, can we do this? But it never worked. So he ended up having to kick butt to solve the problem, which is what we all wanted anyway. So I didn't have any problem with that aspect of it. The whole concept is silly and thrown together. I'm not talking about the movie. I'm talking about the whole concept, the toy line and all this stuff. It's just, they just threw it together, right? And then tried to make sense of it later. And so it's silly in that regard, but they didn't try to make it serious because it's so silly and ridiculous that I think if they went totally serious on it, it wouldn't have worked at all. But the fact that they played it up for laughs, the only problem I have with that is I don't think their tone was consistent all the way through, because Skeletor was really a bad dude, but then sometimes he was really a silly dude, and they couldn't quite, that balance there was a little off. But again, sometimes the humor worked, sometimes it didn't. And, but I thought the action sequences were great. The CGI was good in some parts. I thought the creatures were weaker than what we're used to. The city and all that kind of spaceships and stuff were all great, but the actual, the tiger, his tiger, I thought wasn't great. And one of the beast men I didn't think was all that great. But Jared Leto, I know people hate on Jared Leto. I thought he was great in this. You wouldn't even have known it was him. The design work and everything was great. It was a really nice looking film, except for some of the, lower end CGI in instances. I mean, they spent $180 on this film, and it's sort of, you could sort of see it up there on the screen. I don't think I don't think it maybe was the best move in the world to spend that much money on this franchise and hope it hit, because you got to hit 350 million worldwide to break even at the box office. But again, this was produced not by a major studio, but I guess by streaming services, and so they have a longer range goal for their money, but they still have to be disappointed at the box office. And I also want to say that this really had sort of, you could tell there was some serious Guardians of the Galaxy influence on this, and which is okay. You know, like there's a scene where they break out of prison and they're walking through the smoke in slow-mo, and they're all kind of coughing in the smoke and in slow motion like they did in Guardians. So there's bits and pieces of that in there, which again, you can't fault Hollywood for stealing from whatever was successful. But again, I went in with zero expectations. I didn't know anything about this other than I knew it was a cartoon and it was toys, but I never really watched the cartoon. I don't think I've ever watched a whole episode. So, and here's Jared Leto as Skeletor. I thought the Skeletor design was great. I thought everything about this looked good and was fun. I mean, in conclusion, it was a fun movie. I would, I don't know if I'd pay $16.50 a head to go see it again, but it's definitely worth seeing. It's not a waste of time. You're not going to walk away going, oh my gosh, that's 2 hours of my life I'll never get back. I mean, I enjoyed it. I had fun. We laughed. We groaned a couple times, but we laughed mostly and kind of enjoyed it. I thought the guy that played He-Man was very, very charming. It's a charming film, and I think it hit its goals. But again, it ain't going to hit it at the box office. So will we see more? I don't know. They had 2 little scenes after credit scenes that were kind of obviously wanted you to think they were doing a sequel. Whether they do or not, we'll see. But I know they were planning on it. Now, can they go through with it, taking this big of a hit at the box office? I don't know. Maybe they will make it up on the back end. So there you go. That's how I feel about it. So David Williams gave this a 7 out of 10. I graded it at 2.5 stars, but at like a strong 2.5 stars. So I would be in that 6 to 7 range for it. Just objectively, is it a great movie? No. But is it an enjoyable movie? Yes. And so if you just want kind of some fun, silly escapism, I think it's totally fine and enjoyable. So I wouldn't cap on this movie at all. Saying it could have been better. Honestly, I don't know if it could have been, because you're working with such a lame IP in terms of story and concept that I pat them on the back for what they came up with. Now, and also to clarify the vision a little bit, I tried to watch. I've never seen the 1987 Masters of the Universe with Dolph Lundgren. So I was watching that on Tubi Saturday morning before I went to see this. What an absolute piece of garbage. That movie is awful. And despite the fact that Frank Langella tries really hard as Skeletor, and Dolph Lundgren, I mean, the guy's a stud. What can you say? I mean, he's just ripped, shredded, monstrous physique, looks like He-Man should look, but boy, what a terrible movie. And of course, it was by Cannon Films, the masters of low budget disaster from the 80s, and great movie poster by Drew Struzan. Horrible movie. I mean, I couldn't get through it. It was so bad. I was like, I can't watch any more of this crap. So anyway, this was the new one is a far cry from the old one. So, Avenger 2 says, Dolph looked like He-Man. Yes, he did. Even his voice wasn't that much. No, his voice was fine. I mean, Dolph Lundgren, again, he's not going to win an Academy Award, but he's a passable actor, decent enough actor for those type of movies. I thought he delivered his lines okay. It was just the whole situation of going back to Earth, and Courtney Cox was in it, which was kind of funny from Friends. But it's so it's like they just did that to save money. I mean, it's just He-Man running around in 1980s, LA. It's just stupid. But anyway, let's see here. I saw something here. Here we go. The Beanpad says John Carter of Mars equals a 9. I love John Carter of Mars, and John Carter of Mars is a much superior film to this. But again, tanked, and because it tanked so badly, that reflects poorly on it. And it's hard for people to go, yeah, okay, it's the biggest box office disaster of all time, but it's actually still pretty good. And it is. The problem with John Carter, and I said this before, is your leading man wasn't strong enough. And that's basically my problem with that movie. I thought it was very clever. I really liked it. And I thought, what's his face? Andrew Stanton. Is it Andrew? What's his name? That directed Finding Nemo, but he directed John Carter. I thought he did a fine job. The special effects are incredible. I mean, they spent over $200 million on that film, and it looks great. But your leading man, not charismatic, that hurt him. If they had done this movie earlier with Hugh Jackman, like the original plan was, I think it would have been a totally different film. But I still love it, and I'll watch it anytime it's on, and I've got it on DVD, and I'll watch it. But Masters of the Universe, I would watch it. I wouldn't pay to watch it again, but if it's streaming, I would watch it again because I enjoyed it. And I guess that's a plus. So there you go. Art of Roy says old He-Man and Howard the Duck movie were basically the same. Horrible movies. Dear Lord, Howard the Duck was bad. So bad. And I wanted it to be so good because I'm such a Howard the Duck fan, but God, that movie was terrible. David says, I got to see that Suzanne original at his house. Oh, that's so awesome. For my money, I'm not going to say the two best, but two of the best, which is really kind of a generalized statement. But Suzanne's two of his best posters are Big Trouble in Little China, which I have seen the original and I know who owns it, and a comic book guy. And I've seen it in person. And then the Master of the Universe poster is freaking awesome. I don't own that though, and I should. I do own the poster for Big Trouble in Little China, but that's actually a pretty expensive poster, that Masters of the Universe poster. Like it's over $100, I think. So two great posters by Struzan. But you could see, what was that pirate movie that Struzan did the movie poster for that was so bad? Rennie Harlan directed it. Matthew Modine and what's her face? Not the Pirates of Penzance. What was that thing called? Somebody help me. Cutthroat Island. There it is, Spaceman. Thank you. What a great poster. What a horrible movie. In fact, on Twitter, this is, I don't know, maybe last year or something, someone I think it was Struzan's account was posting different posters that he did. And one of them was Cutthroat Island. And I said, great poster, film, not so much. And Matthew Modine responded to me on that thing. And I felt bad. And I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was, he was a good sport about it. And I said, hey, I loved a lot of your other movies. Just not this one, but anyway. Okay. Gina Davis. Gina Davis, when she was young, she was a fine-looking, tall woman. Okay, anyway, so there you go. If you haven't seen it, I would, if just don't go on with high expectations, just kind of go there and say, I'm going to laugh and have a good time. I think you'll enjoy it. If you want something more than that, probably shouldn't spend your money on it. So there you go. All righty. So much for my patented movie reviews. Again, I would go 6, 5, 7. I'd probably give it 7 because I did enjoy it. So I'm going to say I'll give it a 7 out of 10, which I think is what the people that liked it, that's what they're giving it. The people that hate it, oh my gosh, I don't understand the hatred for this movie unless you just wanted it to be something else, which I get, I suppose. But, I had no expectations and I wasn't disappointed. So there you go. All right, let's take a look at the 1939 Academy Awards, which I did not do last weekend because we had a shorter show and I didn't have time to do it. Now, of course, we're using the Academy Awards, The Complete Unofficial History, as my book, my guide for this information. We're assuming it's all true, but do we really care? All we want is a good story about Hollywood, and that's what we're going to take a look at. 1939 was a banner year for Hollywood. In fact, if you recall, when we reviewed 1938, they were talking about how Hollywood was in decline and they were not sure about the future and blah, blah, blah. You know, the economy was bad because of the Depression. You know, there was war on the horizon. But then 1939 comes along and changes everything. What a freaking powerhouse lineup of films that came out in 39. I'm going to go right to that. Listen to this. These are the movies that were nominated in 1939. And then, of course, I'll show you the winner. Dark Victory was a Bette Davis vehicle. Good film. Very good film if you haven't seen it. Goodbye, Mr. Chips, which is an interesting film because it was nominated for Best Picture this year in 1939 and Best Actor, Robert Downey, but then was remade, or I shouldn't say remade because it's based on a book. It's not, you know, an original movie concept. So they did another version of it in 1965 or 67, somewhere in that neighborhood, 69, I don't know, someplace in the 60s. And starring Peter O'Toole. It got nominated for Best Picture, and he got nominated for Best Actor again. So it must be pretty good source material. I haven't read the book. Love Affair, never heard of it. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Are you freaking kidding me? Talk about a classic. Jimmy Stewart, directed by Frank Capra. Ninotchka, holy crap, with Greta Garbo and Frederick Douglass. What a great film. Oh, I recently saw it within the last couple of years. It's so funny. And watching that film, I became a huge Frederick Douglass fan. That guy's comedic timing and his ability to deliver kind of sarcastic one-liners is incredible. And I've seen him in supporting roles in other movies, and he's just as good. So Ninotchka, if you haven't seen it, check it out. Of Mice and Men, Stagecoach, John Ford, an early John Wayne movie. The Wizard of Oz, and then Wuthering Heights. Are you freaking kidding me? Unbelievable. So that's your lineup. And then, of course, the winner, which we haven't even mentioned yet, that was nominated and won, was the classic, which some people consider perhaps the greatest film of all time, if not certainly in the top 5, was the classic Gone with the Wind. So this is one of those years where you say, how did The Wizard of Oz not win Best Picture? Or how did Mr. Smith Goes to Washington not win Best Picture? How did Dark Victory, how did Bette Davis not win for Dark Victory? And this is why, because it was just this incredible year of incredible movies. So anyway, the ceremony took place February 29th, 1940 at the Coconut Grove Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. Now, it's been at the Biltmore for years, and now we're going to the Ambassador Hotel. Now, the Ambassador Hotel is no longer there. That is the hotel, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that Robert Kennedy was shot at. And when I was in film school down in LA, they used to have a one-day comic show the first Sunday of every month at the Ambassador Hotel, which I went to quite regularly. So anyway, we have got some spicy information for this year. So this is going to be some good stuff. It says here at the ceremonies, for all of that, at least one of its stars, Clark Gable, was giving the performance of his career. Like Bette Davis, Gable had glimpsed the bean-spilling early edition of the Los Angeles Times, and he knew that he did not win Best Actor. He was heartbroken, but didn't let it show. That wasn't quite the case with Olivia de Havilland. We'll get to that in a second. As soon as Best Supporting Actress presenter Faye Bainter began with, "It's a tribute to a country where people are free to honor noteworthy achievements, regardless of creed, race, or color," the room knew it was all over. The whooping hallelujah, Hattie McDaniel rose majestically from her seat at the back, and under the weight of a cascade of gardenias pinned to her gown, she made her way to the stage. So Hattie McDaniel won Best Supporting Actress, in Gone with the Wind, Olivia de Havilland was also nominated for Best Supporting Actress in this movie, and thought she was going to win and didn't win, and was very pissy about it. So here we go. So this is Hattie McDaniel right here, mostly known as a character actor throughout her career. I honestly don't know. She's very funny in Gone with the Wind, but I don't know if the role really has the gravitas that she should have won for it. But, you know, we could say that probably a million times throughout the history of the Academy Awards. But anyway, so Hattie McDaniel goes up to the stage to collect her awards, while de Havilland leaped up simultaneously and made a beeline for the kitchen to cry. So Selznick, David O. Selznick's formidable wife, Irene, followed her, told her to grow up, and ordered her back inside to congratulate McDaniel. With her prettiest Melanie smile, de Havilland did just that. After all, newsreel cameras were rolling. Best behavior wasn't merely a good idea, it was a career move. So that was pretty interesting there. Now, of course, your Best Actress winner was also from this film, the lovely, but apparently crazy Janet Leigh. Beautiful woman. I was involved with what's his face? Laurence Olivier. And but apparently was really crazy. But anyway, so she wins. Now Betty Davis who understood the whimsical nature of Oscar too well, didn't hesitate to give Vivien Leigh hearty congratulations. This despite the final tabulations revealing that her loss for Dark Victory, where she plays this woman losing her sight, and was a matter of just a few votes. So she lost to Vivien Leigh by just a few votes for that. It was a memorable night of bigger-than-life personalities, diamonds, drama, and vindication for David O. Selznick. He had bet the store and won immortality, because this film cost a freaking fortune. And of course, it's still the biggest moneymaker if adjusted for inflation. Gone with the Wind is still the biggest moneymaker of all time. It's not even close. Here, of course, is Olivia de Havilland in her role, and sobbing in the kitchen because she lost, like we care. Anyway, this is interesting. This was directed by Victor Fleming. It was originally supposed to be directed by George Cukor. And we'll get to why he was let go in a minute, which is pretty funny. I ended up with Victor Fleming. So you had Victor Fleming directed this, and he also directed The Wizard of Oz. But he wasn't the first choice for that. So he was kind of the cleanup man on both of these movies, two of the greatest movies of all time. Pretty amazing. And the rest of his career is, you wouldn't recognize any of his best films other than those two were When Clouds Roll By, Man Trap, Way of All Flesh, Rough Riders, The Virginian, Red Dust, Bombshell, and Captain's Courageous. I guess you probably would have heard of that, but pretty interesting that he ends up helming two of the greatest films of all time and then really nothing else. That might speak more to him just being in the right place at the right time, as opposed to him being a brilliant director. So let's take a look at some of the interesting things here. Now, who won Best Actor? Well, Robert Donay for Goodbye, Mr. Chips won Best Actor. And Best Supporting Actor was Thomas Mitchell in Stagecoach. Of course, we already covered Hattie McDaniel winning Best Supporting Actress. Your other nominees for actor: Robert Downey, Clark Gable, Laurence Olivier for Wuthering Heights, Mickey Rooney for Babes in Arms, and James Stewart for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So pretty powerful lineup there. Best actresses: Bette Davis for Dark Victory, Irene Dunne for Love Affair. Now, Irene Dunne seems like she's been nominated every freaking year for the last like 5 years. Greta Garbo for Ninotchka, Greer Garson for Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and then, of course, the winner, Vivian Leigh, for Gone with the Wind. And your two big names in the supporting actress were Olivia de Havilland and Hattie McDaniel. For director, we have Frank Capra for Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Victor Fleming for Gone with the Wind. He won. And then John Ford for Stagecoach, Sam Wood for Goodbye, Mr. Chips, and William Wyler for Wuthering Heights. Another power freaking lineup. So, all right. So here's some of the good stuff. Gone with the Wind's 10 Academy Awards swept 8 competitive, pardon me. I'm going to get this up here. There's our man, Clark Gable. Gone with the Wind's 10 award sweep, 8 competitive and 2 honorary, was a landmark. It ran for almost 4 hours, which is it's still the longest feature ever released. Or pardon me, was at that time the longest. Hattie McDaniel, of course, broke the color barrier by winning, and she was also the first Black guest at the Academy Awards. Color cinematography was placed as a separate award category. And they finally decided that directors could only be nominated for only one motion picture in a single year, because we'd seen previously that some directors had been nominated for, same director for 2 different pictures. Let's see here. Gone with the Wind screenwriter Sidney Howard, killed in a freak tractor accident, was the first posthumous Oscar winner. Wow, that's a bummer. Now, after this year, they switched to Price Waterhouse, would be the company, the only people that knew who the winners were, because every year the winners kept getting leaked. And Los Angeles Times would announce it before they even had the ceremony. So they ended that. Here we go. For Scarlett, for the role of Scarlett in Gone with the Wind, these are the women that were considered: Jean Arthur, Claudette Colbert, Bette Davis. And as you know, Bette Davis was offered it and turned it down. Huge mistake. We learned that last time. Jean Harlow, Tallulah Bankhead, Miriam Hopkins, I like Miriam Hopkins, Katharine Hepburn, Joan Bennett, Norma Shearer. Norma Shearer's got a big nose and her eyes are too close together. I never understood Norma Shearer. And Carol Lombard, who was beautiful too. Among for Rhett Butler was Errol Flynn, and that's why Bette Davis turned down the role, because she hated Errol Flynn and she thought Errol Flynn was going to get the role, which he did not. And Basil Rathbone also was considered for that role and did not get it. Wizard of Oz was originally conceived as a starring vehicle for Shirley Temple, but of course made Judy Garland a star. All right, here we go. Here we go. Guys that maybe should have been nominated but weren't: Henry Fonda for Young Mr. Lincoln, Charles Laughton for The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Those are 2 worthy actors. Best actress, Merle Oberon for Wuthering Heights. She didn't get nominated for Wuthering Heights, got nominated for Best Picture. Olivia gets nominated for Best Actor, and Merle Oberon gets passed over. That's got to sting a little bit. All right, here we go. Here we go to the Hollywood Babylon, and this is why I brought up a picture of little Clark here. Here we go. Are you ready for this? Actually, I'm going to save that for last. Hattie McDaniel and her escort were placed at a table in the back of the room near the kitchen. So they still had a little bit of racism going on there, even in Hollywood. McDaniel's appearance in Gone with the Wind was harshly criticized by the NAACP, which thought her role as the long-suffering loyal slave Mammy was a giant step backward for the Negro image. Judy Garland's giggling fits were costing a small fortune in retakes. Director Victor Fleming solved the problem with a hard slap to the girl's face. Yeah, try and get away with that now, huh? MGM executives thought Wizard of Oz was running too long and seriously considered cutting the song Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Can you imagine? All right, here we go. Here is the salty truth, perhaps, about Clark Gable. George Cukor was fired as director of Gone with the Wind after Gable's ugly blow up on the set, in which, pardon my language, in which the actor loudly insisted that he didn't want a FAG telling him what to do. The official line was that Gable felt Cukor was a woman's director who wasn't paying him enough attention, but rumors persisted that Cukor had known Gable in the early years, if you know what I'm talking about, when the struggling actor sidelined as a boy for hire. Yikes. Quite simply, Cukor's presence was a constant embarrassment for Clark Gable. And that is a rumor that was prevalent all around Hollywood, that Clark had to do a few favors for a few gentlemen to get his way into Hollywood. So, and George Cukor apparently was one of those guys. So that's why he was belted off the film. Can you imagine? Oh, yeah, Cukor was gay. I mean, you know, so was, geez, why can't I remember anybody's name? I seriously am getting old. Guy who directed Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Judas Priest, freaking retarded. Frank Capra. Gosh. Okay. Even though Frank Capra was married and apparently had kids, because there's Frank Capra Jr., but later in life, like when I was in film school, he was like involved with the guy that directed Grease, who was also a USC grad. So it's funny, even not necessarily even being in, working in Hollywood, being around Hollywood like I was, just from being in film school at USC, the stuff we heard that other people didn't hear on the outside is pretty amazing. Avenger 2 says, Aaron was 7 at the time, but still too middle-aged for 9-year-old Shirley Temple. Wow. That is like a new level of disrespect. We got to get back to more cannonballs in the show, because you guys definitely deserve it. Aaron knows who's gay. Wow. Okay. Enough of this foolishness. I do have a couple of super chats. Did I get both of them? Yes, I did. Okay. Good. All right. So there you go. Hollywood 1939, quite a year. And I don't know about you guys, but I love Hollywood lore. I was this close to going into film, or at least trying to go into film. I don't want to sound arrogant and saying, oh, I was going into film and decided not to, because it's not that easy. But that was my goal. That was my purpose for a long time there. And when I found out just about how depraved Hollywood was, you know, these whole rose-colored glasses that I grew up with in Beaverton, Oregon, and then went to film school, just dreams of being Spielberg and all this stuff. And then you start finding out just the immoral corruption in that town. And you're just like, I can't do this. You know, as a Christian, I couldn't do it. And plus the odds are astronomical. And you think it's hard to break into comics, you know, times 10 to get into film, right? At any level. You saw what Clark Gable did to get in, and no, thank you. Stealth X5 for $2 says hello. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Women love all the gossip. I don't know. What are you implying, Art of Roy? The Hollywood Babylon stuff is always fascinating to me. Just the kind of crap that goes on, and especially back in the golden age when it was all covered up by the studios. We have much more access to it now, but so anyway, there you go. That's Hollywood 1939. We will be getting into the 40s next week and see where that takes us. All right. So let's see. I can mark Hollywood Oscars off here. Oh, how about this? We're going to take a little journey into my flat files. Once again, I'm kind of cheating. I'm not going to dig anything out of the flat files, but actually dig something off of my computer here. If I can find the dumb thing. Why is it? I put it someplace. My computer, this is just completely freaking full and overflowing with stuff. And it's almost impossible for me to find. Even when I go, I'm putting it right there and I'm not going to forget, then I can't find it. But I found it. I don't know if I finished this on Graybeards or not, but here's the Rogue Jim Lee version of Savage Land Rogue, which I drew on Graybeards last week. Now, I wasn't really trying to draw like Jim Lee, but the hair is very Jim Lee-ish, I think. I don't think I would have gone that big with the hair if I wasn't, But anyway, that's the finished black and white. Now, I'm tempted to color this thing, but it is available as a black and white. If you want it, contact me soon, because if I start coloring it, it's going to probably double in price. So, if you're interested in this Rogue X-Men, isn't it amazing that it wasn't like Savage Land Rogue, like in one issue or two issues, and yet it's become like this legendary character. Pretty funny. I guess it just goes to show you can't keep a good-looking girl down. Probably shouldn't have said that. Aaron, you made the right choice of becoming a comic book artist. Hollywood's loss and comic fans' gains. Thank you, John Platt. I appreciate that very much. The funny thing is, there were 200 students roughly in my class at film school. I have one friend, not a close friend. He was a close friend in college, but I hadn't really kept in touch with him that much. But they kind of did pretty well with Power Rangers. My roommate directed 2 films, Get Low with Bill Murray and Sissy Spacek and Robert Duvall. And then that Greyhound film with Tom Hanks, the World War II, which is actually a pretty engaging fictional World War II drama. And as far as I know, that's it. And I was of graduate student age when I was there, and he was undergraduate. So he's probably 2 years younger than me. So he's probably 60 right now, but he's been in the industry since the late 80s and has directed 2 films. And I mean, it's hard. It's incredibly hard. Now, he was a cinematographer too, and did a lot of work prior to directing, but still, I mean, that just goes to show you how difficult it is. I saw a little clip on YouTube of a screenwriter talking, and he said, if you get 1 out of every 10 of your scripts, something done with them, you considered successful. Like you're that successful. And it's true. It's just crazy. So, I mean, yeah, there's big money involved if you hit it, but being an actor or even in production is just really, really difficult. But anyway, so here we are. I'm a comic book artist, which is also really, really difficult to stay employed. But anyway, there's a Rogue right there. So I thought that turned out pretty well. I think I've done like 3 or 4 over the last 10 years, Savage Land Rogue pieces. 2 of them I know for sure I've colored, and always have turned out pretty successful. So I have a vibe for this character, I guess. Go figure. People are commenting on the 1990s, 1980s X-Men. Okay, so that was just a quick little jaunt through my flat files. It's really more of a, hey, this is for sale. If you're interested, get in touch with me. All righty. So let's move on to, this is a feature we do sporadically, but I do have something this week, so let's go ahead and do it. Dun, dun. I like that little salsa. It goes with my my Bigfoot with a sombrero here. So interestingly enough, what is for sale this week? Well, let me show you what's for sale this week. Okay, Barbaric Adventures is for sale this week, but that's not the, it's this right here. Okay, so check this out. Now, this is Wonder Woman, Agent of Peace, number 14. So what is interesting about this? Well, the interesting thing about this is it has my story in it. Woo! So I finally am in a comic book that's worth money. This was the Burbank edition giveaway for this book. So I believe when they debuted the statue of Wonder Woman, they're on wherever they did on the Warner Brothers lot or somewhere around there. They had promotional comics that were paid for probably by the city of Burbank because it had a story in there, a Wonder Woman story by me, cover by Jenny Friesen, who's very popular. And she was a tattoo artist. Now apparently still is a tattoo artist that does, some of these covers for DC. But then the rest of the book is just like this promotional, come vacation at Burbank and blah, blah, blah. We have all this stuff you can see. But the thing is, this book is pretty rare. And because of that, it's worth some cash. Now, I'll be the first to admit, this is me selling. If you'll notice the name right there, Husker Fan 12.12-0, that's me. So this is, I was sent a box of these books, right? Like 20 of them, 15 maybe, I don't know, I haven't counted. But so what I did was I had no idea. I bagged and boarded all of them, took them to a comic book show with me and was selling them for $5. Not one person bought one. It was a very small show and not one person bought one. So I was like, all right, maybe I had them for $10, but whatever. No one bought one. So I take them home with me. I went, nobody's interested in these. So that same year, this is 2 years ago, San Diego, I'm at my booth. I didn't have any of these, but I had like 2 or 3 people come up to me and have me sign these. One of them was like a CGC signature authorization. So I signed it and they're like, oh, thank you. And I'm like, I was like, what's so great about this book? I didn't think much of it. This dude comes up to me and he has me sign his book. And he goes, and we were talking and he goes, do you know how much these are? Hey, he goes, do you know how rare this is and how much it's worth? I went, I have no idea. And this is 2 years ago. He goes, these books are worth about $600 a piece. And I went, I'm sorry, what? And I was selling them for like $5 or $10. And like I said, no one bought them. So I took my stash completely home with me. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to put one up on eBay and see what it does. And so it was ungraded. I put it up on eBay, got $800 for it. I take that back. I got $1,000 for it. And I was like, what? And so then I took 2 other ones. Okay, that's a lie. Let me get this straight. I put one up on eBay, ungraded, and I got $800 for it. Then I sent one in to get graded. It came back a 9.6. I sold that and got $1,000 for that one. So then I took 2 more, sent them in. They came back as 9.8s. And I sold one of them on eBay several months ago, last year, like September. It went for $1,800. And so this is the other 9.8 because I don't want to flood the market with my 20 copies. So, or my 15 copies. And so this is mine that I put up another 9.8 and to kind of see, I started the bidding at $9.99 and just see where it goes. So it's over tomorrow evening. So it'll be interesting to see what it ends up at. But like the one I sold for $1,800, I almost fell out of my chair. So, Jim. Yeah, there's creative phase like, can I have one for $10? You should have. Do you know what would have happened if someone had just come by and people had, like, a bunch of people knew what these were worth and just gave me, and I sold them all for like $5 a piece? I would be so pissed at myself right now. But finally, I've got my name on a book that's worth something, and I'm able to use the comp copies I got to, I'll do one like a year, just throw it out there and see what it gets. But anyway, there you go. So the highest sale for a 9.8 on this book is the $1,800 that I sold it for. Good time. So anyway, that's for what's sale this week. So if you're a big spender and you want to get a copy of this, maybe this is the book for you to bid on here at it's over tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m. Pacific, 9:30 p.m. East Coast time. So there you go. Wonder Woman, Agent of Peace. It has an Amelia Earhart story in it. I don't even remember what I originally did the story for. It wasn't for this book. It was for... Was it an issue of Wonder Woman? Yeah, I think it was. It was a two-parter. So I don't know if they just put one part in here. Honestly, I don't even remember. I have to go look. But it was the Amelia Earhart story I did with Matt Ryan inks. Actually, it looked pretty nice. So it was one of the last things I did at DC. Yeah, Art of Roy, that is true. That is absolutely true. I know that's happening, and I'm hoping that that turns into a few royalties for me. I also know, like I told you guys, they're doing a What the omnibus, which I'm guessing isn't going to supply much in terms of royalties. But, hope springs eternal. All righty, here we go. Let's see here. Let's take a look at some Joe Mad covers. Now, I have to admit, I was never a huge Joe Madureira fan. It's not that I didn't like his work, but that sort of animation influence style is not what I gravitate toward usually. So it was interesting to go and look through, a selection of his covers and going through, because I looked at hundreds of different covers, coming up with the ones that that's a good one. I like that one. Or that's a good one. I like that one. But it was fun for me because I really wasn't all that familiar with a ton of his stuff. I know of Battle Chasers and X-Men and things like that. So anyway, this will be maybe not for you guys, but it was a fun journey for me because a lot of this stuff I hadn't seen before. All right, I had to do the official intro into this. So let's take a look at some Joe Mad covers. Now, Joe Mad's an interesting case study because he, at the height of his career, left comics and went into gaming and probably did way better financially doing that. I assume that's where he's still at now, but most of us kind of most of us don't hit it big like he did, but you just kind of keep, you get used to it and you hang in there and pretty soon the industry dies and you're like, gosh, I probably should have gone to, I should have done storyboards, or although all these jobs are now disappearing thanks to AI. So I guess nothing's safe. I guess it doesn't really matter. But anyway, I'm surprised at how many issues of Battle Chasers Joe Mad actually did. Now, I know he didn't draw all of them. I know he wrote them, I guess, but he didn't draw all of them. I don't think, because this says, this is number 11. It says Joe Madureira and Ludo Lullaby, which I assume would be the artist. So it's a Joe Mad cover, though. But I like this sort of serenity of this cover. I like this sort of, I just watched Kung Fu Panda, which is got to be one of the best animated films of all time. Just that movie is freaking hilarious. But this kind of gives me that sort of Kung Fu Panda vibe with that tree right there with the flowers or leaves blowing off of it there. Very serene, I think nicely designed cover, almost sort of anime-esque, which I'm not a big fan of anime. But I still think the design of this cover and sort of if a lot of his other Battle Chaser covers were very sort of in your face, and this is just so quiet and sort of it's just a change of pace, and so I think it really sticks out because of that, and so I kind of liked it, so that's why it's on this list. Excuse me. Avenger 2 says, got to dip out. I'm tapped out on trying to annoy Aaron today. Good night, everybody. Good night, Avenger 2. Thank you for joining us. All right, so that's first on my list. And of course, these are not in any order. And of course, you may not agree. Your mileage may differ, all that good stuff. But these are the ones that kind of struck me. This one's kind of obvious, I guess, and maybe that's why I put it on here, because I don't necessarily love this cover, but it's kind of, I think it's known, and it is pretty high energy. But it's Wolverine, X-Men Alpha of the Apocalypse. I don't know what the heck this is, but pretty much in your face Wolverine cover, not particularly original design or anything, but again, you got to imagine that this book probably sold pretty well with that cover on it. Very high energy, very much in your face, strong central image, just bam. So, and it's Wolverine. So, and he looks like really like pissed off. You're in trouble, Wolverine. So there you go. So that made the list. What else we got here? Now I put this one on here because this is early Mad. And usually I'm not a guy that goes for busy covers, but there's just something charming about this, much like Masters of the Universe charming about this cover. And you can see, if you look at the faces here, very Arthur Adams influenced. Very Arthur Adams influenced early on here, which of course is always a good influence to have. You can feel a little bit of doggone it, the Spanish guy who passed away early in his life, just a couple years ago. We were all like, what? Doggone it. Help me out, you guys. But anyway, I can see a little bit of influence of him on here too. But it's just amazing to me that Michael Golden begot Arthur Adams and Todd McFarlane, but how many guys have Arthur Adams inspired and McFarlane inspired? Yes, Carlos Pacheco. Thank you. You see a little bit of that in there too, but very much Arthur Adams in those faces for sure. And it's funny, most people that were inspired by Arthur Adams have become stars or superstars. It's very strange to me how that works. Like, same with guys that like are Travis influenced, they've become stars as well. So I guess if you imitate superstars, you yourself will become a star, which doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I'm not saying Joe Mad's not good and I don't like his stuff, because I do, but that's kind of an interesting phenomenon, I think. Ricky Ricardo is not who I was thinking of. Steel Rage says a lot of skeletons in McFarlane's closet. He's an expired artist. Interesting take there. I don't know about any of that. Yeah, a lot of you guys had Pacheco. Art of Roy had Pacheco. Henry Jeremek got Pacheco. So thank you guys for that. How many body pillows does Aaron have, and who is his waifu? I don't even know what that means, but it doesn't sound good. I don't have any body pillows, by the way. My wife does. Henry Angelus says, I'm influenced by all of them, so you're going to be a star soon. Okay, there you have it. John Platt says he never saw that Wolverine cover before, so me and him both had never seen it. How about that? But I do like this, and I just because of its I mean, it's just all over the place, but I can't even tell. It's charming in a way. I don't know. I like it though. So there it is. Early Mad. This is more. What year was that? This is more the Mad era that I was used to seeing. That I was most familiar with was this stage right here in his career. Really cool Magneto image. He could have maybe extended this hand further so it was bigger in the panel. But other than that, let's not be critical. That's not what I'm here to do. But you can see the evolution where he's kind of leaving Arthur Adams behind and becoming Joe Mad in this cover. But you've got a lot of action behind it, but you do have that strong central figure of Magneto that kind of carries this. And of course, it's red, which also always helps these things pop. Let's take a look at a Battle Chasers cover. And I have to say, I never read Battle Chasers, but I know it's a pretty popular book through Image. I like this just because it's, I like the angle. I like the fact that I like the dead space there on the left-hand side. He's got that big robot up here. I always liked that robot because I never did stuff like that very well, robots and things like that. And these guys always, when I say these guys, I mean guys that had more of an animated style, more, you know, and from this school of thought. And of course, I'm sure there's anime influence there as well, but they always had these really cool sort of large robots. And they were never like, they were always very sort of organic feeling, which is what, you know, I would draw these fingers I would draw these like more rigid, like they were metal pieces. Or these guys are just like, nah, they're more like clay, you know? And I just don't think like that. And that's what makes this cool. I'm curious though, especially in this day and age, you got this young girl protagonist, this old dude that's helping her out, and you got a big robot. So the big robot's cool, but you know, doing a comic around a young girl with some Infinity Gauntlet on her, I mean, I wonder if that would have any legs today. Now, here he did a book called Avenging Spider-Man, which I was completely unaware of, but I really dig this cover. It's got Red Hulk on it, and it looks like a bunch of like little goblins or maybe the Mole Men's trolls or something. I don't know. I haven't read it, but so this would have been prior probably to Battle Chasers, I would assume, because his name's on the cover, which means he must have been drawing the inside of the book. So you've got Red Hulk here. There's Spider-Man right there. And then all these goblins. Great composition. Again, you've got a big red character right there to draw your eye in. It's a combination of a really good, strong, centralized image, but with a lot of stuff going on around it. You know, like this mass of little goblin bodies. A nice pose on Spider-Man, although he gets a little bit lost here because of the Hulk. But I still like this cover. The cynical art of Roy. I thought I was cynical. It says, yeah, it would, Aaron. Plenty of perverts still buy comics. That's pretty funny. All right. I like this as much for the coloring and the big central image as anything. I like that kind of aqua blue cover or color. I wouldn't get a car that color, but you know, on this type of stuff, I like it. I don't know who this character is, but again, very dramatic. Not all that different than that Spider-Man cover, really, in terms of thematically. You got all these creatures. Maybe these are dead souls or something climbing up this hero here, or whatever he is. That big sword there. Maybe he's He-Man. I don't know. Super dramatic. And again, that's what you want to do to sell a book. You want something really, really dramatic. This is cool. Again, it's not incredibly original, but it's very powerful. You know, and he's got those like Joe Madureira knuckles and fingers. It's like all the cool artists like draw knuckles and hands like that. Sometimes I do. If I'm drawing like monsters or big dudes like the Hulk, I'll draw hands kind of like this. But for normal dudes, I normally don't. I have no idea what this book is. Inhuman. I don't know that that's the Inhumans. And I have no idea who this character is. But it's cool. That's a really cool image. It's a very simple image, but it's really cool. Very dynamic, a lot of energy. This is a pretty good cover here. Now, granted, you've got some pretty good subject matter to work with, but I like how this is large characters sort of in your face. Again, Avenging Spider-Man. I never even heard of this title, but apparently Joe Mad was drawing it at least for a few issues. I mean, not just the covers, but the interiors as well. So you've got like Spider-Woman, Red Hulk, Wolverine, and Spider-Man. Doesn't this kind of feels like that what was it called? The Avengers book that, although the Red Hulk I don't think was in it. But wasn't there Bendis's Avengers book where Spider-Man and Wolverine were in it, and David Finch drew some of that stuff? It was a pretty decent book, as I recall. Gemini Dragon says, you know what they say about big hands? They wear big gloves. And look at this, really. This looks like this is maybe was digitally inked. I don't know. It's hard to say because the color is obviously digital, so that might be affecting how I'm looking at this. But look at those thick holding lines. I like the Spider-Man figure. I like the kind of goofy, you know, cartoony hands and stuff. Again, I think, you know, I've said this a million times, but one of the ways to be popular in comics is to have people look at your artwork and go, oh, that's unusual. It doesn't even matter sometimes if it's good, as long as it's unusual and it's different than what everybody else is doing. Doing what everybody else is doing, even if you do it really, really well, it's really hard for people to separate those stuff. But if you come in with an exaggerated style like this, or something like Jason Pearson, or, you know, something along those lines, you get noticed pretty quickly, especially if you're good at it. And here's my last cover, and maybe my favorite of these that I pulled out. And again, it's very, very simple, but Savage Wolverine. So apparently Madura drew this too. So he's done a lot more work than I thought he did, interior work than I thought he did. Because I thought he just had like a run on X-Men and then took off. But I mean, he apparently did the interiors on this book and on the Spider-Man book we just looked at. But this is, I just love him, like, it's just a great shot. It almost looks Alan Davis-y, but I love the close-up of his face. And I love the classic costume. He's like biting a chain. I mean, it's a really cool concept. Got the ninja stars stuck in him. He doesn't have the blades out of his claws out of his hands because it would cover up his face, obviously. Oh, I see. Gollum Wolf goes, this book was colored over his pencils. The hardcover collection show the pencils, which are really tight. Yeah, okay. I did that once when I did Amethyst, and man, what a pain in the butt to do pencils that clean and that tight, but I've done it. It would not be my first choice because your pencils have to be so tight that essentially, and everybody's different, so this is just how I ended up doing it. I would do these 11 by 17 layouts, fairly tight layouts, and then I would light table them onto a Bristol board and clean them up. And then so the pencils were just super razor tight, and there was no, like stuff that didn't get erased or whatever. It's just totally clean and tight. So I basically had to draw every page twice. And on top of that, with Amethyst, I was designing everything as I was going. So it was a lot of work, but I would just as soon pencil loose and then ink it myself over the top of that and clean it up in that regard, than just try to do super tight pencils. But to each his own. There you go. So that's a look at some Joe Mad covers. Art of Roy gives us an update. Says he went back to Marvel intermittently. Yeah, that's true. In fact, he was on with Mark Miller and said he was doing new Marvel stuff. Okay. Wow, he's doing new Marvel stuff now. You always wonder, people like, well, anybody that leaves comics, seems like inevitably they always end up back in comics. And I wonder if that's because work dries up in wherever they went. But like Bernie Wrightson left comics, went to work for film, did design work, storyboards, all that kind of stuff, but then ended up in the 80s right back into comics. Barry Smith, same thing. Joe Mad, now, as you say, coming back to comics, or at least to some degree. So it's interesting. We always talk about comic books dying, and yet it seems to be the one industry that survives when all these other ones keep dying around it and everybody keeps going back to comics. So interesting. We shall see. We shall see what happens. Okay. Well, that's pretty much the meat of the program this week. We only have one segment left to do, and we all know exactly what it is. Before I think I'm going to have another one of these fruity jellies. I mean, I'm normally a chocolate guy, but these are sugary good. All right, I gotta get my energy up because we've got some really horrible Bigfoot videos to show you today. That's kind of an oxymoron, isn't it? A bad Bigfoot video. I mean, they're all pretty awful, aren't they? I mean, that's just kind of part of the deal. Yeah, let's see. Would it be possible to get Jay Matt as a guest on Graveyards? Let me explain something to you guys. I know Matthew's got, he's always like, hey, get somebody and get this guy and get this guy. And not just Matthew, but a lot of people. Nobody wants to come on the show because we're basically asking them to work for free. In other words, if they're going to come on a show for 2.5 hours and draw, what do they get out of it? We get something out of it because, oh, hey, look, Joe Madureira came on the Graybeards. And unfortunately, I'm not like really good friends with any of these people, so I can't like leverage a friendship and go, come on, man, help me out. I mean, I can get Ron Garney to come on. I might be able to get Joe Jusko to come on, maybe. But we send out invitations all the time. Dan Lawless is like, hey, can we get so-and-so? And I'm like, Dan, and ask them. And they all say the same thing. Oh, think about it. Oh, yeah. Because it's work. First of all, they have to draw on camera, which is a lot of pressure. 2, they're working and not getting paid for it. So what benefit is it to them? And that's the problem, right? Now, we've had guys on, but it's usually when they have a project they're promoting. And so therefore it does benefit them. Like Dan Brereton, we had him on the show because he had a Nocturnals book coming out. So we pumped it up. Jeff Johnson came on the show because he had a book to promote. And that always works out fairly well. But it's challenging. It's challenging because most guys just do not want to draw on camera. It's too much pressure. And a lot of them don't want, like Beatty won't come on and draw. He'll come on the show and harass us, but he won't come on and draw because he's like, hey, you want me to draw? I want it as an avenue to make money, not just, to spend 2.5 hours. So it makes it difficult. But anyway, we're always trying. So good thing the regular cast and crew of Graybeards is so freaking hilarious, entertaining. If we don't have a guest, that's fine. We can roll without one. All right. So enough of this. Let's take a look at this. I call this baby Bigfoot. You can call it whatever you want, but here we go. This is not a video. It's just a still photo. Oh man, when this is, when this makes top 4 for the week, you're in trouble. Art of Roy says they all have Paul Revauche mentality. Well, that is too true. See, look, Gary Martin's in the chat, and Gary is on the show, and he won't draw. So, anyway, so what do we got here? I'm sorry. I can't even take this remotely seriously. When guys do like Bigfoot or cryptid videos on YouTube or whatever, and they just like, look at this. It's a juvenile Bigfoot. And you're just like going, are you freaking kidding me? This is terrible video effects, or it's just a puppet, or it's just, I mean, how do we take this seriously? Now, I will say this. If this was taken in 1969 near Woodstock, you could say, well, maybe this is like some hippie kid or something, and maybe I could get on board with that. Here we go. It's Chaka from Land of the Lost. Indeed, it is. There it is. Henry Jeremick agrees. It's Chaka. Supergirl before Superman shaved her down. What in the, where does that come from? Oh my gosh. Matthew Muma, perhaps that's little Cornelius as he was growing up in Planet of the Apes. Creative Face says it's Aaron before he lost his hair. Wow, Creative Faye. Here, this is for you. Okay. Yeah, I don't I honestly don't really have much to say about this other than this is so ridiculous. I'm embarrassed that I put it on this show. But anyway, there you go. It's perhaps I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm just too cynical, and this is actually a juvenile Bigfoot walking around. I mean, obviously the deers are looking at something, right? So, people are taking the deer if the deer have to fight with Chaka from Land of the Lost. All right. Why won't this go away? I can't get Chaka to leave. All right. So then we're going to start the show off with that. And let's see, does it get any better? Oh, actually, okay. Here we have a, this is in Ohio, allegedly. So a lot of Bigfoot sightings coming on in Ohio recently. I'm not sure why. Like Oregon, Washington, and Ohio are like the three big states for Bigfoot sightings. But, you tell me what you think here. This guy is allegedly out fishing, saw a little action. You can see him right here, and filmed it. Now, of course, my question is, what are the odds that you're fishing and you look into this, 20-foot clearing and there's a Bigfoot walking across while you happen to have your camera out? But maybe it could happen, sure. But again, this is the same question that I always have on every one of these videos is, why is it so short? Why is it just 4 to 6 seconds, which is, of course, the length of time you get a free AI video? I'm just saying. Now, granted, it disappeared behind the trees, but if you look over here, there is, let's take a look at the beginning. There's wide open space over here too. So chances are this Bigfoot would walk through here and come out the other side. So why wouldn't you keep your camera going and seeing what you could pick up? Now, I thought maybe at first maybe it was a bear or something, but now that I look at it closer up, I think it looks fake. Randy Howell says, can we get an AI of Bigfoot riding a moose? Now, I've had a couple of AI Bigfoot videos with him wrestling a moose before, which were pretty entertaining. Heart of Roy says, a lot of work to have a Steadicam vid of some black guy in a fur coat. Oh my gosh, that's funny. The question is, what's a black guy in a fur coat doing out in the woods? That's a good question. Is it a reflection in the water? I don't know that we get a long enough shot to be able to, because let's see. He would be right in here, right where it's all dark. So I don't know that you'd see it anyway. Because this right here, right to the base of the tree, that's this area. Sorry, this area is right in here. So you can see the tree right there. And then it gets dark right in this area. So it's kind of, I think he would be like right in here. And it's dark anyway, so it'd be hard to tell. So there you go. I give this a, well, sure, it might be Bigfoot. but that's about all I'll give it. Eric Boyd says, just like Bigfoot, I have to dip out and leave for another dimension. Everyone have a great Sunday. I hope the pending week will be great. Thank you. Same to you. Thanks for joining us, Eric. We look forward to seeing you again next time. Thank you. All right. What else we got here? Okay. Now, all right. So now I'm going to complain because now I have a really clear picture. Now, this is out around the area of Mount Adams in Washington. But these are two still photos. So this one, now there's a second one. I want to see if the camera angle is the same. Well, it looks like it's the same tree, but closer. Now, there's a lot I like about this. I like the modeling. I like the, the shape. You look at the back, he almost looks like a freaking superhero. Look at this, the big thick neck. I like that. These shoulders, there's a little bit of sway in his figure here. I think the design on this looks pretty good. Of course, do I think it's real? Why would I think it's real? But I still think it looks pretty good. So essentially what we're to believe here is that this guy was walking this way. He turned to his left right after this picture and then walked out into the sunlight, where he then got washed out by the light. But the interesting thing is the cameraman here is not in the same position. So if you're this close to a Sasquatch, which is pretty freaking close, and you're snapping pictures, which of course we're going to assume he took these pictures with a phone. And if you've got a phone that can take pictures, you've got a phone that can take a movie. So why didn't he take a movie of this? Is the other question. And then the third question is, look at the angle change here. Okay, here's the problem that I have. Look at the trees behind Bigfoot. Okay, there's two trees right there. They're not in the other photo, unless they're these right here, up here, which they apparently are. Okay, I'll give them that. It's these trees, and that tree there is this tree right here. Okay, but what I'm saying is the guy with the camera, instead of just sitting where he's at and continuing to take pictures or a video, he then moves up closer. You can still see the tree branches sticking out in the foreground, but he moves up way closer. That's a pretty ballsy maneuver if that's actually a real Bigfoot. When you're that close already, wouldn't you just sit still and take pictures until he was far enough away that you felt like you could move maybe a little closer? Because you don't have to get much closer for that. But then he jumps way up. Now, granted, maybe he cut off well, he had to have moved because the camera angle is different. So I question that. There you go. No video. That's what I'm asking, Angela. Queen Mickey says big squads. I think she means quads. So I do like these, but I find them, that's the thing. We're going to get better and better Bigfoot videos with AI, but they're not going to be any more real. That's the problem. But that was pretty good, just for entertainment value. All right. Now this, you have to tell me what you think of this because, well, okay. So his head is right here, right there. Okay. We will now roll film. So you can see his eyes right here. That's his nose. I don't know if that's a hand or if that's fur on the side of his face. Okay, so what are the telltale signs we should be looking for of AI use? Well, once again, it's the glitches in the editing. So let's go back to the beginning and see if there's any glitches. So we start zooming in. Now watch. Zooming in. Glitch. Glitch. Let's review that again. So he's got this, you can tell the image doesn't move. It's just him slowly zooming in, and then it glitches. Like there's a piece of it missing right there. So isn't that a telltale sign of AI? That you're combining multiple AI short videos into trying to make one? And the guy's saying that this Bigfoot is, in the voiceover, this thing is like 12 feet tall or something. And like, how in the world would you freaking know that? If this is the ground right here, he's obviously hunched over. So how do you make the, how do you distinguish his height? But I don't like the eyes and the nose. That looks fake to me. And that glitching, of course, is a huge problem. I'm about to sneeze. Hang on, sorry. Yeah. Gemini Dragon says his story is 12 feet tall. Exactly. I once caught a fish this big. John Platt says there was a video short that was in my YouTube feed that showed some guy who had allegedly shot and killed a family of Bigfoot that he had kept in a large chest freezer that looked so fake. I just saw that when I was looking at it yesterday or the day before. And I didn't even bring it on the show because it was so freaking bad. I was like, are you kidding me? If you're going to try and pass that stuff off, at least get a reasonably decent makeup artist to come in there and create that stuff for you so it looks somewhat believable. Yeah, but I guess we're just going to call this glitchy fakery, I think is probably the best. Angela says, bless you for my sneeze. That Randy Howell says, this guy pulled his fur collar up and rubbed campfire ash on his face. I wish it was even that much. This looks to me like it's completely fake. So I don't even know if there was any costume effort involved in this at all. Gemini Dragon, of course, says Bigfoot tastes like chicken if it's cooked right, which reminds me of there's a scene in Masters of the Universe, the original one from 1987, and Dolph Lundgren, where the girl, the guy with the mustache, and some little troll guy who makes keys for locks or something, they rob this 80s fried chicken stand and are sitting there eating chicken sitting down in the woods eating chicken. Oh, it's so bad. So bad. Okay. Well, anyway, I don't think I've done anything on this episode to make us believe that there's any greater chance that Bigfoot is real than it was the day before or yesterday, which was the day before this day. Whatever. But we'll keep trying, because if we don't search for the truth on this show, what are we doing, really? I want you to know now that I am done with Zorro Legacy, and that means 100% of my time now is back to Barbaric Adventures, Primal Zone story. And I've got a page right over there. I'm going to finish penciling that tonight. Going to get it inked tomorrow. And then Tuesday I will start. Well, what page am I on now? I think I'm on page 8. And I'll be starting page 9, something like that. So I'm moving along. Things are going at a clip. So we're going to have that book done relatively quickly. But I'm not going to sacrifice quality to get it done super quick either. But it'll have my full attention. Let's just put it that way. And I've had to redraw some stuff already because I want this. I'm treating this book like it's not going to be, God willing, the last thing I ever do. But I'm treating it like it's the last thing I ever do, so that when it comes out, I want people to go, whoa, I didn't know Aaron could do this. And so I want that consistently through the entire book. And I'm working very hard to make it that way. And I know I've seen, like I said, I've seen some of David's pages, very nice. Seen some of Dan's pages, very nice. Dan is like, I'm not going to show you all the pages. I want you to see it all when it's done. I'm like, dude, I'm the editor of this book. I'm putting this book together. I will see your pages before the book gets published, regardless. But anyway, so he's hiding all of them. But he showed us a couple more and then really cool stuff. This is going to be a great, great book. So if you haven't backed, please consider doing so. You will find a link in the description of this video, take you right to the campaign, as well as pinned to the top of this chat. And multiple people are like Angela Curry, like Randy Howell, are posting links in the chat as well. So please check it out. I think it'll be something that you'll want to have in your collection of reading material. As I'm getting ready to head out the door, Queen says, how did you come up with the name Empire Comics? Interestingly enough, I wanted something. I was looking for an impactful word. I wanted to keep it one word, not too many syllables, because I thought Marvel Comics, the great thing about Marvel Comics is it was a short word. It said something, Marvel, it was cool. And I thought, okay, I want to go that route. So I went with, I worked on a bunch of different words. And I thought of Empire because I was like, well, it was, trying to build an empire of comics. You're building something here like an empire. And as a two-syllable word, much like Marvel, Empire Comics. And I thought it would just be easier. It would stick. And it had some impact. It wasn't just like Blue Sky Comics, like, okay, what does that mean? So, Blue Sky, I know the Blue Sky Entertainment, I know there's that, but I wanted something that was a little bit more fitting. Now, I know there's a lot of empire things out there. It's like probably the most overused word in the English language right now in terms of business names. But what I was trying to do, it seemed like the best option at the time. So there you go. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today. I want to thank you for joining me. Please enjoy the rest of your weekend. Be safe. I think chances are pretty good I'll be on Kings tomorrow night. We'll see how that works out. And then, of course, Tuesday, I'll be hosting the Professionals where we will be doing trivia night again, kind of like Jeopardy. So you want to check that out. And then Wednesday, of course, is Graybeards. It's Dan's week to choose. I'm not I have a pretty good idea what he's going to do, but he hasn't verified it yet, so I'm not going to promote it because I don't know for sure if that's where the direction he wants to go. And then after that, I will be at SummerCon in Puyallup, Washington, leaving here Thursday afternoon. The show is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. If you're in that region, stop by, say hey. So there'll be no Sunday show next week because I will be in transit probably after, well, I'll be at the show, and then after the show, I'll be driving home. So there you go. Yeah, I won't even be home for Father's Day. I still expect, pats on the back and stuff. So Henry Thune, are you freaking kidding me? That's it? We've only been going for over 2 hours. What do you mean? Is that it? Okay. If you came on time, you'd get everything. So Creative Faye, you're so far behind. Dan chose corner boxes. Yes. And then I went, and then David went, and then Gary went last week. So now it's Dan's turn again. Anyway, okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time right here on Comics, Cryptids, and Cannibals. Good night, everybody.